Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister. You always give me the impression of a minister who's prepared to roll up her sleeves and get things done. And when I hear you talking about things like policy shift in the Department of Health, I just feel like cheering out loud. But of course, we have to see that there is actual policy change. But the fact that you are prepared to speak up about it and to say that it's needed and that you will deliver it does give us hope, shall we say. And I look forward to seeing the delivery of that policy change on the ground over the next couple of months, very much so. But a few questions to you, Minister. You've already answered the July provision question quite comprehensively, but we had the INTO and the STI in last week, and one of the questions I put to them was around the use of not the use, that's the wrong expression, but that the childcare sector could be part of the July provision, and they said they didn't see a problem. But one of the issues I think we'll face there, Minister, is that I think you need to be registered with the Teaching Council, and that is a miasma at times. So, you know, that's another place where we need to get rid of some of the barriers. So I would ask you to look at that, Minister. And I would ask, in your opinion, do you believe that all of the changes you have spoken about here today, and you speak about them with enthusiasm in regard to July provision, can you tell us today that you would hope to see most of those, or a substantial percentage of them, in place by next year? I have three other questions. Nobody has mentioned the employment strategy for people with disabilities. In Ireland, our rate is half the European average. I don't need to tell you how important access to employment is. What actions are being taken to deal with that? The local question I want to ask you is your most up-to-date in regard to respite provision in South Leitrim. Thank you for your intervention, but I need to know what's happening. And finally, if you have 20 seconds, cost of disability. Thanks, Minister.
So we'll start again, as I say, with some of the good news in relation to respite in South Leitrim. You were there that day. We were very fortunate that when we all sat around the table, we could find solutions. And the solutions were within the Sligo site, but I think everybody was pleased about that. My understanding is one of those houses is being actively worked upon as we speak. The HSE had said to me, January, we agreed that day it had to happen at the end of the year, that site. So I'm still working to that target of for the end of the year. There's actually two houses there. I think it would be dreadful not to use both houses, to be quite honest with you. And it still wouldn't be a congregated setting by any manner or means. And we need to actively pursue that piece. So that's ongoing as we speak. And I think it's important to acknowledge the work of Edel Quinn that day, who was prepared to be agile and pragmatic in her approach to finding a solution. So that was fantastic. The comprehensive employment strategy, I think, is going into its third iteration. And can I take the opportunity to thank the board and thank the team who have given endless hours to trying to make this work. We are an outlier, there's no denying that whatsoever. So what we are doing as part of the ADMC, the Assisted Decision Making Capacity Act, we are going to put in legislative terms that the public sector has to go from 3% to 6%. So that to me will be a positive step change. And the other piece as well is, and you will be aware of this, I'm trying to think, the ability programme. I have seen some really, really positive work since coming into office, and I talk about the Ability programme. And it's not just in a particular location, but it's supporting 2,400 people right across the country. And that falls under the funding of Minister Humphreys. And this is the cross-government, cross-department piece again, where I have seen a really, really good model. It's a model we need to hold on to. It's a model we need to expand. It comes under the leader side of things, but it's really, really good. What I also will say as well in relation to the RSS and the TUS and the CE scheme, they're now open to taking persons with disability allowance, which is a step change as well. There was a huge amount of barriers there, so I have to acknowledge the department as well in listening and responding to that. And in relation to the childcare sector and the other departments. Like, it's not my brief, so I have to be very clear, Chair. Education is not my brief, but it impacts children with disability, so I have to have a knowledge of it, and I have to see how can we find solutions. So when I talk about in the earlier years, Department of Education fund early years providers, and I talked to PALS again about it, in delivery of early years, but they couple them then with that everyone must have a teaching council number, and they also need to have the childcare qualification, and they're regulated by the TUSLA. But at the same time, without the likes of PALS, we wouldn't be supporting children with autism in the earlier years. We actually need to look at that model. We need to look at how we can expand that model. We need to look at how we can invest more into that model. It's a fantastic model, and I know that is something, but they are delivering on the July provision on it, Deputy. So look at that, to me, is way we need to work across all departments. All departments, education and equality and health, need to be working together in the delivery of care. And the cost of disability, hopefully very, very soon. I gave a commitment within 3 to 4 weeks last week in the Dáil, and I'm hoping to follow through on that.